Jeepers, where did you get those peepers? Ayo, jeepers, now where did you get those eyes?
Guys, Jeepers Creepers. I used to call Jeepers Creepers the 30-minute franchise because I actually used to think that it was only the first 30 minutes of the first film that was actually any good. Honestly, I used to honestly think that the only good part of Jeepers Creepers was the opening 30 minutes of the first movie. You know, the bit where Trish and Darry are driving in the countryside and they're playing those word games, license plate game of each other, you know, just having a laugh like brother and sisters do if they're bored. And then all of a sudden, spoilers of course, but yeah, they're driving along and then they come across this abandoned chapel and they see this mysterious looking guy in a black coat chucking bodies in wrapped up sheets down a pipe. That for me is the pinnacle of the franchise. I didn't think it got better than that. And you couldn't get better than that. And that's why I called it the 30-minute franchise, because up until that point, and then when Darry goes to explore the chapel, for me, that film was elite, and you cannot get better than that. Subscribe to the channel, guys, if you haven't already. I just want to say a big thank you as well to everybody who has subscribed to the channel so far. You're all legends, and, you guys, without you guys, there is no me. You know, I wouldn't be making content without you guys watching it, just to know that, the small following I've got so far are taking an interest in watching my videos means the world, guys. It really does. Start off small and grow into something big, guys, honestly. That's my thought. But guys, you guys so far, thanks for getting me to where I am so far. You've enabled me to springboard myself confidence-wise to be able to, believe that I can become a big YouTuber one day. I want it. But yes, guys, Jeepers Creepers. Like I said, the first 30 minutes of the film for me, the opening movie, is literally the franchise for me. I didn't rate any of the other ones. I didn't rate number 2. A lot of people say number 2 was actually pretty cool and pretty good. The one where, all the school kids are on the coach. I didn't like it. I didn't rate it. The first one, I actually thought was a brilliant film for 35 minutes. Like I said, you've got Darry and Trish driving past the abandoned chapel. You see this guy in a black cloak chucking dead bodies down a pipe. Darry goes back to explore the pipe. They get run off the road by this guy in this truck. And then it's following them getting run off the road by this guy in this truck that they actually go back to the chapel. And then obviously from that point, you just think to yourself, this is really tense. This is really, really scary. I'm really into it. I was on the edge of my seat watching that movie first time. And then, unfortunately for Darry, the poor sod, he falls down the pipe. He slips down the pipe. And I always felt really sorry for Darry because, all he wanted to do was help. But then obviously Darry goes down there and he finds hundreds of dead bodies stuck to the cave walls. It looked like a cave, didn't it? I mean, it didn't look like a basement or a cellar to a chapel, or a basement to a chapel. It looked like they were basically on this wall, this brick wall, this cave-looking wall. And then obviously that this guy's been killing people for a long time. And up until that point, the movie for me was fantastic because we didn't know who this guy was. You literally saw him from a distance chucking bodies down a pipe. He drove this rusty old truck that made a terrible noise when he put the horn on. He pressed the horn for this truck and it made this horrendous noise. It was literally like a truck from hell. And it was, up until that point, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic, that movie is. I think the movie goes downhill once they get to the cafe. They go to the cafe and then they get that call from that psychic woman and she says, listen out for that Jeepers Creepers song. That part's a bit quirky. But I always thought up until that cafe scene, that movie is one of the best horror movies you could probably hope to watch. And probably even stands up well today. To be honest with you, it stands up well today. But I think the movie goes downhill once they get to the cafe. And I think it actually takes a huge plunge once you actually fully realise what the creature is. I never liked the fact that we got to find out what the creature was. I don't know why, but when you realise that the creature is this deformed kind of demon-looking entity, when you realise that the demon monster can fly, I thought that just ruined it. I I would rather have the suspense of this creepy guy who drives a creepy brown, broken-down truck and you never get to see his true form. You just get to see this creepy looking guy wearing a cloak and a hat. That would have been fine by me. But the fact that he was like a demon and he had wings, I thought that just, I thought that was a bit too cheesy. They go to see that woman, obviously the psychic woman as well, and she's at the police station. They go to see that woman with all the cats. But I just thought, Jeepers Creepers, you know, I remember when I first watched that film, you know, my mum introduced me to that film. I think it was the first time. I think I had fish and chips when I was watching it. And it was literally like the first time I'd ever saw the film. My mum said, this film's brilliant, this film's fantastic. I think I was only, this film's obviously bearing in mind in 18. I think I was only about 15 at the time. My mum was like, my mum and dad never used to care about me watching horror films. They'd literally watch horror films in front of me when I was about 16, 15 years old. And I used to love them. I used to absolutely love them. But I remember my mum showed me this film. And, you know, I remember being on the edge of my seat, and I watched it a few years later, you know, when you get older, you get more, you know, I think I was 18, 19, I appreciated it more. I watched it a few years after. And I remember sitting there when I was about 19, when I watched it again, and I thought, this film's really good. This film's really good. It starts off really well. The first half an hour is so good. But like I said, it just, for me, becomes a little bit less of a movie once you realise what the creature is. The one bit I suppose that is rather cool is when Trish and Darry are in the car and the police cruiser is behind them, and then he pulls the guy's tongue out with his teeth, and you think, yeah, that's cringy. That just makes me cringe thinking of that. Another interesting thing about Jeepers Creepers as well is they actually, in some of the original outtakes for Jeepers Creepers, they were actually going to have the creature, the demon creature, actually speak. There's a bit when I don't know if anyone's ever seen some of the deleted scenes from Jeepers Creepers, but there was one scene where Darry and Trish go and visit that woman who has all the cats. And obviously the demon creature kills her. You know, he literally, I don't know if he stabs her in the back and he carries her outside, doesn't he? He carries her outside the porch and he pushes her to one side and shows his face for the first time. At that point in the one of the deleted scenes, the creature actually turns to Darry and says, "She don't smell too good, Darius." I can understand why they got rid of it. It's a bit gay. From what I have read and researched, the actors that played Trish and Darry didn't actually get to see the creature until that scene. That was the first time they'd ever saw the face of the demon, was actually when he killed the woman who owned all the cats. That was the first time they got to see a close-up of the actor that played the demon. So I'd imagine that would have added a bit of an element of fear for the cast members. Obviously, they know it's a movie, but you know, that would have been probably quite creepy to see for the first time, especially while filming the movie. And finally, of course, we've got the bit at the end of the movie where, you know, the creature, which we all know at this... Well, we don't know at this point. I kind of had a guess at this point that he was after Darry, but we didn't know why. And it was actually for his eyes. He wanted his eyes. And there's a bit at the end in the police station where the police are literally all pointing the guns at the creature who's got a hold of Darry, and Trish says, "Take me, take me." Flies away with Darry. Then Trish literally runs out the police station screaming, "Darry!" and looking up to the sky, and the creature's flying away with Darry. Looks like something from a 60s movie. But, and then obviously it cuts to the end, and you've got Darry literally hung up by chains and his eyes are missing. So, you know. And to be fair, a lot of the films in the early 2000s in terms of horror films, I remember watching The Ring for the first time. You know, a lot of old horror films actually do... I've not included the Ring in this, but a lot of old horror films do have that kind of cheesy horror aspect. You see horror films today, although they're very repetitive, you know, they do kind of stick to the horror aspects. They always feel like horror movies. They always feel dark throughout the whole entirety of the film, whether they're repetitive or not. But I always feel horror films, or, you know, scary films in the early 2000s always feel a bit cheesy. They do have cheesy elements to them. It's only when you look back years on that you kind of see that. But yes, guys, Jeepers Creepers, for me, like I said, 35 minutes. For 35 minutes, it's probably one of the, if not the best horror film I've probably ever seen. But after that, I just think it dies a very quick death. But you guys might disagree. You guys might love the entirety of the film. Let me know your thoughts on Jeepers Creepers, guys. Like I said, I love it for 35 minutes, but after that, no. But yeah, guys, Jeepers Creepers. It's still a classic. Of course, it's a horror classic. It still goes down as one of the classic horror films of our time. Despite what I think, I'm literally just throwing an opinion out there. My opinion is not fact. Jeepers Creepers is definitely one of those iconic classic horror films. It probably doesn't get, in terms of the first film, it probably doesn't get the mentions that it should, but for me, it is a classic. It's a classic horror film. I haven't seen too many horror films, like I said, if any, that made me feel like Jeepers Creepers did for that first 35 minutes. Guys, let me know your thoughts on it. Subscribe and like, of course, as well. Subscribe to the channel and like the video. I will see you very shortly, guys, for another video. And hopefully, it'll be an interesting one that you will all Love. Guys, thank you ever so much. I will see you very soon for another video. Ta-ta for now. Enjoy your day.